Reason is a man-made construct that only exists for humans. The way that we're designed psychologically, evolutionarily, is to find reasons for why things are the way they are, why that which happens occurs, and what caused it. This is our design for survival, so that we can deduce how we can repeat what's desirable and avoid what is undesirable. Blame, then, is too a man-made construct that exists only to man, as is shame. There is no objective, true blame correctly assigned. Blame is where we reasonably are attributing or assigning the cause of what we perceive to be undesirable. We're saying that we blame the house fire on the child who played with the matches. We blame the parents for not supervising their child correctly. We blame the sister for creating clutter around that made it difficult to... We blame the phone company for failing to provide adequate service at the time of this emergency. We blame the hospital for delaying responding, and then we blame the poor for cluttering the patients, and then we blame the president and the policymakers for offering help to people. This goes on and on infinitely. We could blame every single cell, making up any number of things, and, cells reproduce and then die, and more are created, and that is the way of the world, is things die, things live. So our puny minds, by the time we can try and wrap it around, let's specifically blame you for X, Y, or Z happening. By the time you've gotten that sentence out, there are infinite more things you could blame. If you succumb to thinking habits of blame, you will never finish. You will be very unhappy and disappointed and jaded with everything. You'll regard yourself as powerless because the locus of control, the thing that's governing what's happening, you're considering to be outside of yourself. This is learned helplessness, learned hopelessness. Hopelessness is the number one predictor for suicide attempts. Complete hopelessness is far worse than death. I think we can all kind of agree on that. So, if you're allowing yourself to blame yourself, somebody else, for really anything that happens, you've taken the first step to something worse than death. To accept shame, someone blames you and you accept that shame, to accept responsibility as the reason for something. I mean, how egotistic and narcissistic of us. That we're creating some schema of attributions that is defined to create some schema of attributions that's defined by our selfish, narrow personal experiences, to make something that makes quote-unquote sense to us, where we're throwing each other under this huge bus careening through life called nature versus nurture, nature and nurture, the things that you're just born with and the things that are available because of everything that's around you. The fact is, we don't wield any exceptional power over that which governs reality objectively. We're at the mercy of entropy, chaos, cellular functionality, gravity, the butterfly effect, the Joneses, the media, genetics, culture, time. So that's contradictory, isn't it? You shouldn't allow yourself to consider control to be completely outside of yourself, because then what's the point of living? But at the same time, to think that you're able to begin comprehending or narrow down or point the finger at 1 or 2 or 18 or the highest number you can imagine things as the reason for something, you need to step outside of yourself. If you think about it, animals, so let's imagine your dog, nature, plants, forests, they don't need reasons. Things that happen, so there's a storm because of weather, because of planetary things, and lightning strikes a field adjacent to a forest. Fire consumes everything. Countless, plants die, animals die, people might die. But there's not a reason. The reason is what we can't really fathom. We can't take into account all these things. It just happened. And a reason is something retrospective. You're looking back on it and you're justifying it in some way. All that reason does is cause us to go at each other's throats. It causes us to sometimes feel better for something because it wasn't us, but really, who can say that when something horrible happens, regardless of who you blame, does that really make you feel better? It doesn't for me. It almost makes it worse, because then, with whatever that was, it never really fits, because it's never the full picture. And the way that we're designed, evolutionarily, psychologically, is to continue searching to find a reason. So, if reason is a man-made construct that does a whole hell of a lot of harm, but it's part of our psychological functioning, it's the way that we are designed, it's our nature and it's our nurture, you could argue that everything happens for a reason, because it did happen. And you can put those reasoning powers to work to find the reason why it happened and why it was meant to happen. Just think about that. This is Ady, pilot for AtypTalk. You can come visit me and beautiful community of people, www.tinychat.com/Atypnoc, ATYPNOC. Till next time.